Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm Nick, and today I decided to rank all 4 Aladdin films from worst to best. Now this ranking might be somewhat controversial, depending on who you are, but you know, this is how I see them from worst to best. So real quick before we get into it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this type of content and want to see more in the future. And here is my social medias all over the screen. Links to all of those will be in the description, guys. And let's get into it. Now, coming in the last place, we got Aladdin and the King of Thieves. Now, this was a direct-to-video sequel. This is the 3rd film in the Aladdin franchise. And this was a first-time watch for me. So maybe that's why it's in last place. But honestly, this is the reason why for me. I found it to be just kind of dull and boring throughout, especially after we get into the whole thieves plot line. I feel like the movie just kind of falls flat, and even its ending is a little bit anticlimactic in my opinion. But there is some good here. We do get Robin Williams returning as Genie, which is awesome. It's just too bad I feel like he's not really used very well. Like, we don't see much of him throughout this film. He kind of takes a back seat. The animation is a step up from The Return of Jafar, but we're still not quite at the original level, you know, with their big Disney movies. This is still a direct-to-video sequel, so it kind of looks a little bit like the TV series type of animation. I do appreciate the storyline here, how we're diving deeper into Aladdin's past and finding out more about him and his origins. And we learn about his father and reasons why Aladdin grew up with no parents. And I like all that. It's diving deeper into the lore, and that's what sequels are supposed to do. It's just too bad that it's not the most engaging story. All in all, this is not a bad film. I rate all these films in the positives. Like, none of these films are bad or get any negative scores from me. It's just that this one just happens to be the one I'm least likely to put back on. Coming in the 3rd place, we got The Return of Jafar. Now, I know most people on the planet would rank this last, and I get that. But for me, there's just too much nostalgia keeping me from hating this. I have a great time with it. I grew up with it. I owned this one on VHS as soon as it came out. And as a kid, you don't really notice a lot of the bad in here. You don't realize that the animation is the worst it's ever been out of all 4 films. It's probably even worse than the TV series at times. We get very little Aladdin plotline going on, and we mainly focus on Iago, which is a really random character to be focusing on your entire movie, for the most part. But story-wise, this is a great continuation from the original. We pick right up off after the original storyline ended, and we find out what happened with Jafar. We find out what's going on with Genie. He ends up back. It's unfortunate we do not get Robin Williams doing the voice of Genie, which is another thing I did not notice when I was this high, you know. This is not the type of things that you really look for as a kid, but as an adult it really sticks out. Is really voiced by the guy who does Homer Simpson in this one. And at times, you can even tell that it's that guy. Just his voice, a few lines come off as Homer. And I feel like they made him like hyperactive, like more than even Robin Williams, just to try to match the original Genie, and it doesn't quite land it. Even though I think he does a great job at what he's given, and he couldn't have really done any better. It's just that he's no Robin Williams. We also get a new character called Abismal in here, which is like just a random little petty thief who's kind of annoying. He's voiced by Jason Alexander, from best known for Seinfeld as George. And that's another thing, I never noticed that was him doing the voice as a kid, because I watched Seinfeld and that as a kid. It used to air all the time in the 90s. So that was quite the surprise rewatching this as an adult. But for the positives, I love Jafar. So getting him back, he's more menacing than ever. I think that was great. I like how a lot of this film is pretty dark, and we get like the dark red sky, and it's just more evil, you know. Evil is present in this film, especially in the second half. And I really do like the whole finale in that, even though it's a little rushed. But that's because the film is only an hour and 9 minutes long. Like, what? And I think that's with credits in that, so it's a very, very short run. This is a direct to video sequel as well. They call these the cheapquels, if you will, because it definitely is a downgrade from all the original Disney films. But personally, I love The Return of Jafar. Before I move on, I just want to say I really dig the soundtrack to this one. King of Thieves I thought was one of the most forgettable soundtracks out of all four of these films. Like, I don't remember one song. But this one has some great tunes. We get Iago singing two of them, which is a really odd choice because who wants to hear Gilbert Gottfried sing? But I feel like the songs still work, especially Forget About Love. I think that's one of the best tracks in the entire franchise, which I'll probably get shot for saying that, but I don't care. It's the truth. So while this sequel lacks the clever story writing and all that of the original, the plot's pretty thin, I still have a ton of fun with it, and that's why I could not place this in last place. Coming in at number 2, we got Aladdin from 2019, the live-action Disney remake. Now, for me, this is one of the more tolerable Disney remakes because most of them are like so terrible and cringeworthy. This one has a few scenes like that, but for the most part, it's very well made. The songs are pretty good. I think the ones that they redid from the original aren't quite as good, except for A Friend Like Me. I really do like Will Smith's rendition of it in this one. And their additional tracks that they added are all fairly good as well. I think all the action scenes are done great, whether we're talking about Aladdin like going through the marketplace when he's getting chased, or different scenes like that when he's on the carpet. I think it all looks fairly good. We got great casting for Jasmine and Aladdin. I think those two were perfectly casted. And surprisingly enough, I think that Genie, played by Will Smith, actually works. I'm glad they didn't try to do another carbon copy of Robin Williams, because it just wouldn't have worked. Doesn't matter who you put in there, it's just can't rely on him anymore. You have to move on. I think it was a really smart choice to go with Will Smith because the guy can already sing, he's already funny, and he has that wit and personality to him. So I feel like he was the best choice for this. And going back to Jasmine real quick, I think that they actually wrote her as a stronger character in this one than the original. She's actually an upgrade. Probably the only one that's an upgrade, but still, I feel like she's more independent and strong. And I really like her handmaiden, her best friend that's at the castle with her. I think she's really funny. But the major problems I do have with this film is the rest of the characters. Mainly the animals and Jafar. Like, Abu feels so lifeless. He's just a CGI wreck. And he lacks all the personality of the old films, even though he couldn't really talk. But in this one, he's just so forgettable. Same with Iago. Iago just feels like a random parrot. Like, he doesn't feel like Iago at all. You could have really placed this parrot in any other film and no one would be like, hey, that's Iago. No, because he's nothing like the original. He's not funny or anything. And then we're getting to Jafar. Like, Jafar is the worst character by far in this film. I think the casting was terrible. He does not resemble Jafar one bit. He lacks the menacing presence that our animation movies brought. I feel like this guy's like he doesn't feel menacing at all. I don't feel like he's a good villain at all. And yeah, it's just not who I picture when I picture Jafar. It's kind of an odd choice to make him like a warmonger in this, because he was just a visor or whatever in the old ones. In this one, he's wants to take over different lands, to have power. Instead of just him wanting to be the best knight, he's like wants to take over, which is, I don't know, it's an okay side plot line, but it was just an odd choice. So yeah, this movie repeats a lot of the same beats as the original, but the ride getting from start to end is much different, which I feel like makes this movie a little more rewatchable than some of the other remakes that are just carbon copies of the original. Like I said, they do repeat a few things, but the journey getting there is completely different, which I appreciate. But easily coming in the first place, we got Aladdin, the original from 1992. No doubt that Disney was at their peak of making the best films ever at this point, with Aladdin, Lion King. All the Renaissance movies are the huge hits, and I'm so glad that I grew up watching them, right, being born in 91 myself. I was born right into there, so my parents were buying the movies for me all the time on VHS. And this one really has it all. Great world building, like, to set you in an Arabic land and to make it come off so majestic and magical and just such a cool world to see. And they're not our regular characters that we have in all the other types of animation films. This was so different, but it worked. Our voice casting in this one was spot on everywhere, from Gilbert Gottfried to Iago to Genie being played by Robin Williams. Everybody played it amazingly, excellently, however you want to say it. It's perfect. We got the best soundtrack out of all 4 films. We do not get one filler track on here. You gotta love the opening theme. You gotta love Prince Ali. All those songs are just so great. Even A Whole New World, while it's not my cup of tea for musical style, the song is it's one of the best written songs ever for an animation film. So I gotta give it that. And the themes in this one are a little more mature than your Disney movies nowadays or animated movies nowadays. Back in the 90s, they weren't scared to tackle topics like life, death, the rich and the poor, you know, social commentary like different groups and the levels throughout society. And they tackle all these brilliantly. Like our main lead is a thief, but he's not a bad guy. He will give away his food to kids in need. And I feel like in the 90s they weren't scared to tackle those type of subjects, where nowadays no one wants to touch anything like that in a kids movie. I mean, I can go on for hours about this film, about how the characters are all, not even just the voicing, but the way they're written. They're all written perfectly. I love all of them for different reasons. Jafar is a great villain in this. He's threatening, but he's sneaky at the same time. We get a few iconic scenes too, like the Cave of Wonders. I always thought that was one of the coolest things in any animated film. And all the way to our final battle. It's how the red lighting and everything is there. It's just done so cool, and it's definitely one of my favorite animated films of all time. And that's not just the nostalgia talking. This is still a great film. I'm sure if you showed this to a kid nowadays who has never seen it, he would still fall in love with it, because it's a true classic. And that's why it came in at number 1. So there you have it, guys. There's my ranking of all 4 Aladdin films. Not one bad film in this franchise. It certainly has flaws throughout, but I feel like these are all entertaining enough, and I could put these on and I would never be mad. Like, it's always a good time watching an Aladdin film. So guys, let me know down below how you would rank these 4 films, and am I crazy for not putting Return to Jafar in last place? Let me know all that down in the comment section, and I'll be sure to reply to you. And until next time, thanks for watching.